Welcome to The Uncommon Truth. My name is Max, and as always, I'm joined by Steve and Vicky Orsillo, senior pastors of the Father's House Church here in Orville, California.
Hey.
Welcome
Here we
back
are.
to the show.
Hello, everyone.
73 episodes in.
Wow.
Wow.
Every time it's like, you set a new record. Wow, I didn't think I'd get to 73.
I know.
And next week it'll
It's
be
Steve's
I didn't
age
think
again.
I'd get to 74.
Wow. How old are you, Steve?
Yeah.
73?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow your age goes up every week.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of dog years.
It's part of the adventure of living with Vicky.
It's like the curious, Benjamin Button.
And yet
Yeah.
you still
She
have
is
all
like
your hair.
the curious Benjamin Button. That's right.
Just, what is that? He's the guy who ages quickly?
Backwards.
Backwards.
He gets younger.
Younger.
As days go by.
I see. And it's the opposite of Groundhog Day, where every day is not different. It's crazy and unique, and 2020 is
Crazy and unique.
Whole different.
Doesn't it
whole
feel like it's
different
been
ballgame.
20 years already? It's
Yeah, it's
2020?
Yeah, 2020.
Remember
Great-
20 years ago when we were in
great
Hawaii?
decade
Yeah.
of our lives, 2020.
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So you just had a good lunch encounter with somebody.
I did. I got the pleasure of leading a beautiful girl to Jesus.
That's
and
awesome.
she had a remarkable encounter. She looks like she's brightly converted, and I'm very excited when that happens. It makes my life feel like I'm doing something good. Once
That's
I
really
introduce
cool.
someone to Jesus Christ. It's pretty cool.
I went on a bike ride on Monday evening. It was sort of like I just need to get out of the house and just kind of go and convert my stress into energy.
Yes.
And so that's what I did, and it was really cool. And I thought I was going to do one of those like cool guy things where I plug in headphones and listen to music and ride my bike by myself. But I actually ran into four guys on the bike path that they go every Monday at the same time. And I had run into a couple of them once before, but I didn't remember their names. And anyway, we ended up just riding for about an hour together. And when you ride uphill on a bike, you go pretty slow. And so we got to talk because one of the guys was really slow. And
It wasn't you.
No, it wasn't me.
Okay.
And they asked me what I do.
Wow.
I guess I have a Canadian accent still a little bit. So where are you
you're
from?
American's kind of
Sorry.
weird. Yeah.
And sorry, eh? And so I mentioned the Father's House, and they just spent the rest of the ride telling me all about the Father's House and all the
on.
things they knew about it and all
Wow.
the great things that all the people they know. And they said things like, "Oh, my wife went to a women's group with some of the ladies at the Father's House, and she really liked it because they all talked nicely about their husbands." And another
That's
guy
always
said,
works.
I really I knew about the Father's House because my workplace is always getting gifts for kids,
Wow.
underprivileged kids for
So
Christmas,
awesome.
and I didn't have to say, "Oh yeah, this is what I do." They got to say, "This is what you guys do,"
It's amazing.
and they'd never been in the church or anything, so that was kind of cool.
Did that make you feel good?
It did. It
Yeah.
made me
Like you're
feel
part of something.
good. I was, kind of when you go out and you want to be by yourself and you're like, oh man, I the right thing to do here is to go ride bikes with these guys instead of, blaze the trail by myself. And it was really cool. I ended up spending some good time with them.
Jesus smiled on you.
And hearing the things that they love about the Father's House. So
Wow, that's so cool.
Not
That's
and
cool.
I get the impression, they're one of them told me straight up, and the other two, I'm pretty sure they're not Christians. I'm
Wow.
pretty sure they just
More, Lord.
they're
Touch
from
'em.
Orville and they just like what you guys do. So
Wow, that's awesome. What we
Yeah.
do?
What we do?
what we do.
Yeah, what you do.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's
Not
right.
to correct you.
Right. I got to get them into the podcast too.
I'd love it.
Yeah.
We could call them out.
Get them listening.
That'd be great.
That's right.
So this week is a little bit on those lines actually, because we were going to talk about how to take a vision that God has for your community, and instead of leaving it in vision land, actually making it a reality. And that was one of the reasons actually when we came down here for the wedding that we came down a few years ago, and we looked at the place and saw all the crazy things that are going on here. All the every day is so much involved in all the different things that you get to do.
Different aspects.
Yeah, all the different ways of ministering, and I asked myself, okay, how many people go to this church? And then we showed up to church, and it was like, oh, not that many.
16.
Not as many as I thought, based on 2,000 person mud runs and getting gifts to like all these kids or all these other big things that, feeding 2,000 people a month at the food bank.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really impressed. And that was one of the things that weighed a lot on us investigating, coming down, moving our family from Canada to be here. So I mean, was it always going to be that way when you founded the Father's House 20-something years ago? Or
It was always the goal.
that was always the goal?
And when you're dealing with people, it's the old herding cats things comes in, and you have to get them to buy into the way you're going and what you're doing. And so when you start, you have a vision, you have a dream,
Mm-hmm.
but you also have to have a hope and a ability to adjust. Like you have an idea that if we could just do this, that would happen. And then it doesn't always go like that. And I think that sometimes people hear a message like this or a talk like this, and they get it in their mind, we're going to change the whole world and everything's going to be different. It's going to look somewhat like the cartoon or the vision or the fairy tale we watch,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And the truth is, to go out and serve the Lord, you have to be able to be the same person in all circumstances. When you have great success and they all run to the altar and you're saying, we had 800 converts last night. We had 800 decisions for Christ last night. And all the things that we count and say make us successful, like our church is 250.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's way more successful than the guy at 25, and we think. And that's everybody, you're way ahead of me.
We're a numbers society.
Yeah, and then someone else says 1,000 and us 250ers are like, we're just peons, right? And so I don't think that's a very good idea to look at your success in a church.
It's good.
I believe that if you have a gift of baking and you go out to the local salmon festival and you give away free baked goods to say Jesus loves you, or you go to Walmart and say, there's a lot of love in this cookie. Jesus wanted me to give you this cookie to let you know how much he loves you. And I think so that is changing your city one person at a time. And that's a much better way to look at it. But I'm impressed that, you heard what we did and thought we were way bigger. See, that's success. And I don't care if you're 25 people or 250 people, that someone would think there's more of you doing this. You're doing this by yourself?
Yeah.
How is that possible? Well, it's the run and not grow weary, walk and not faint, rise up with wings like eagles, and not faint, and just follow the Lord and stay with him. And it's like amazing the expanded things that go on. The one puts to flight 10,000, instead of David putting to flight 1,000, Saul putting to flight 10,000. It's the one begins to have multiplied results, and it's still not the results that your fairy tale told you, or your vision was. It's usually the results that are a little less measurable. If you came to Oroville, it'd be hard for you to look at Oroville and see that we changed the city. But we changed the city.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Vicki can remember what it was like. But, there's still a lot of dilapidated housing, and there's a lot of broken people, and it's a tremendously broken society of people. There's still a ton of ministry to be done, and we couldn't possibly do it, even though we're doing a lot, and we see an expanded vision, an expanded fruit. There's enough. 1,000 people could come join us, and we still wouldn't have enough.
Yeah.
Because this small town is really broken, and there's a lot of broken people. The churches of Oroville, I know since we started, we came looking for a church, and we just wanted to join someone doing what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And we really couldn't find anything.
Just give your life away, right?
Yeah, just give your life. We want to serve. We want to serve where we can serve and join a church that's outside the four walls preaching the gospel, because we were really into preaching the gospel. Well, we couldn't find that. We're not saying it wasn't here. We just couldn't find it. So eventually the Lord calls us through a fasting season, and we start the church. Well, the visions he started giving us is give your life away, do everything for free yard sales, free giveaways, free kids camps. Those things cost money.
Yeah.
And you got to raise the money. You got to give the money out of your own purse. You got to give your own time, your own energy. And, we took a lot of kids to camp, and we don't have much evidence of any of those kids being Christian as adults. That was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we have more evidence of them being in prison and them going the wrong way. But who do they call when they finally decide for help? Who do they come back and look for? And so when you measure change, when you measure success based on you have planted seeds in a lot of people, and they will, when the season is right, come looking for you, that's great success. Now, we have cleaned up a lot of properties, and we have built a lot of houses, and we have cleaned the streets of 300,000 pounds of garbage, but there's still plenty of garbage.
Yeah.
And there's still plenty of dilapidated houses, and there's still plenty of burned downs.
It's still a mission field.
It's still not just a mission field that you don't even have to go looking. You just throw a rock, it's going to hit something that needs your help. I mean, we've done a lot, but we haven't scratched the surface. And yet, when people like you are looking at us, they come to see how many of us there are. People see our festivals or our events we put on, they go, how did you do that? It's like an army of ants. We didn't teach them how to put things up and take things down. We taught them how to serve Jesus and give their life away. They came eagerly, which brought them energy, which brought them hope, which brought them joy in doing these projects. And that's really, our food bank is a day in, day out drudgery. But every time they hand a box to one of these people, back comes their hope, back comes their joy, up rises their faith. I'm doing something. I'm handing food to a family that has nothing. So I think that's where we were going.
Yeah. Well, so Jesus said to his disciples in John, he said, whoever believes in me will also do the works that I do, and greater works than these will they do. And I know I always thought about that as like, okay, miracles or like signs and wonders, those sort of things. But when I was preparing for this podcast, that first popped into my head, and I looked it up, and it actually says works, right? And so those are actually just kind of like just getting to work, right? And
I think that's really good, that because I think in the Christian churches nowadays in the Western world, we do look at that like we were going to raise the dead and we're going to heal the sick, and Steve and I get caught up with that too, and then we sit down and think about the people whose lives were resurrected by the power of Jesus, the drug addicts, or the people who come from Colorado and find a life, the community of giving your life away, the works. It's like you'll know by the love. You'll know who. How does it? You know me by my love. By my love. What's that? You'll know.
They will know you are my disciples by your love for one another.
And I think that's what's amazing, is that the Lord Jesus gave us a strategy of works. Because we love him, we gave our life away, and we just decided to love Oroville. And like Steve said, come in the opposite spirit. And I feel like that we have done really great works in Oroville with Jesus' help. We do it because we want to make him famous. We want to just give as we have been given. And so I think people now, it's been a long time, like you said, the first kids we took to camp, most of them are in prison. But what's happening, like you said, like on the bike ride, in a small town like this, 4 of the people are telling you about the Father's house, and because they've heard the notoriety of the works. They don't exactly even know where we are.
Well, they were telling me like names of people, like, oh, I heard they were talking about both of your daughters.
Really?
Right? They're like, oh yeah, we know about Jordy.
Wow.
We heard about Jordy.
That's our associate pastor.
Right, and we know about Jordy passed away in March. We know about Nicole and Louie and their daughter, who passed away and brought a lot of people to faith because they documented everything, right? And then Avi's place, which is going to be built on the property.
Did they know about that too?
I told them about that. One of them knew.
Oh wow!
Follows them on Facebook. They told me
cool.
They told me about Stephanie Mumby and how like amazed they are by her life living after raising 4 kids after her husband passed away.
That's right.
And they told me about I did some work with their son-in-law Derek and their daughter Danielle, and they're amazing people.
Wow, that's awesome.
And they even said, I went to high school and I knew their son Mark and how much joy he had, and also knew that if anybody were ever going to pick on Mark, because Mark has Down syndrome,
right,
that Danielle would be the first person, and
cool.
Nobody wanted to mess with Danielle, so nobody ever said a bad thing about Mark, and Mark was everyone's friend. And
that's such a great example of people watching your life.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And here I am. I spent an hour with these guys riding bikes.
So cool.
And I usually you get ready when you tell somebody. Well, I actually volunteer all my time at a church, and you kind of get your dukes up a little bit, like, oh, I got to defend this decision of my life to move my family and kids, and kind of not just work to make money to make sure you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get your dukes up ready to like defend that decision, and here they are telling me how great a decision that is.
They're getting themselves saved on their own.
Non-Christian guys saying, like, wow, this is really cool that you can live like that. I'm not sure I could, but it's really cool. And all the credit goes to the Lord because he's providing everything that we need.
I know, it's amazing.
And the community that he's put us in provides everything that we need.
It's amazing.
But it's really cool that they know that.
And
Right.
that is 22 years of working,
That's right.
and with that wasn't evangelism. That wasn't let's go out on Friday night every Friday and tell people about Jesus. That was doing the acts of kindness and love over and over again, and it just became larger and larger till we have a free mud run for children. It's an obstacle course, and I believe the last time we had it, all 2,000 kids were signed up.
Yeah.
And it was free. And so that your notoriety, it's like, why do you do this? And to have all these kids running around with the Lord's Gym mud run on their back,
Yeah,
it's
you
so
see 'em
delightful.
everywhere.
Yeah, you see everybody with the Lord. They don't even know they're representing Jesus, and but it just kind of grows, and you just say yes. You just start saying yes, and so that's your story's so cool that pretty much they were getting themselves saved.
Yeah.
That's
Before
awesome.
we go on, I wanted to say for people who are just tuning in from all over the country, all over the world, this is what I saw when I came here to this small town, small church. I saw not only the church that has put itself in like this really rough neighborhood, right? Just dropped itself right into where it's needed most. But also a discipleship school with people from all over the world that come. It's called the School of Transformation. So we had heard about that, and we got to see some of it. The life recovery ministry, the drug and alcohol ministry, recovery ministry, basically any recovery, anybody that needs recovery from addiction and needs to know Jesus.
Right.
We saw that. We saw, preaching and teaching internationally. The content that comes out of this place goes everywhere. And that's to show like we've got people from England and Holland and France and Norway and Switzerland, all over Australia, right?
Yep.
And then we talked about the food bank already, and some of the businesses that run just on volunteers, like the gym, the boutique, and the frozen yogurt shop, and then this mud run, and the kids park that's coming, and the kids camp that's coming, and the gift of hope, which is the Christmas gift for kids who won't get Christmas otherwise. And then just the normal every week homeless outreach and adopt a block outreach where you just go and talk to your neighbors. And those are the things. So because people who have been paying attention to this podcast or who know about us already, they know those things. But the other people who are just, they're just tuning in for the first time, or maybe just listening to the last few episodes, that's what goes on. If you want to see it, you can go to fathershouseorville.com. And you can see all those things, but those were the things that had my head spinning when I first got here, because I thought I was coming to a little church to, for our cousin's
God played
wedding.
a trick on you, didn't he?
Yeah.
He blindsided you.
And so those to me are those greater things.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when I would read that verse, I would just settle for he must mean something different, right? He must mean something different, or maybe it's not my job to do those greater things. Maybe it's these other people's job to do greater things.
So Jesus saying you'll do greater things is, in my opinion, hardly ever correctly gone after, because it's healing, which isn't greater than his healing. He is the greatest. He had the greatest percentage. It says he healed them all.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I've never been in a room where he healed them all, so you're not doing greater. He raised the dead. How are you going to do better than that? Yeah. So that can't be what he's talking about,
good.
Right? So what he did was came to a God-loving society and was unable to get very many of them to come to the new covenant, to accept the new covenant. He got very few, maybe a few more than 12, to become sons and daughters to God, to make God their father. And so what he was telling them is, as you go out into the world, you're going to bring God as a father to way more people than me. You're going to preach the new covenant to way more people than me. I'm here to forgive sins, and he forgave some. Mm-hmm. He forgave some in a small community.
Yeah.
But you will go out into the world and you will get people forgiven in large amounts, in massive amounts, far greater than I did here in Israel as a human being. You're going to go out in the world. You are going to be filled with the Holy Spirit. you are going to have him as your guide. You're going to lay your hands on the sick and they'll recover. But the far greater thing is we have the ability to preach the new covenant where Jesus was never able to preach the new covenant.
Yeah.
We are able to become his children, make him our father, and get other people to make him their father. And sometimes in human history, that's been very difficult. Those people did not do greater things than Jesus. Back in, Victorian days, or even further back when it was illegal to preach something other than this church or that church or this doctrine or that doctrine. And, if you were in the Crusades and everything, there's just such a constricted. I don't think those people did greater things than Jesus. But in any people group that took the new covenant and turned it to loving, preaching, and transforming, making people be born again of the Holy Spirit. That is greater than when you do that in your society and your numbers double and triple, and you start to grow in the gospel of Jesus Christ, and a nation, a Western nation or a third world nation becomes a Christian nation. You've done something far greater than Jesus did. Now, that isn't the sexy thing everybody wants. They want the gold dust and the clouds of glory and the emeralds and pearls from the pulled down from the sky, and they want gold teeth, and they want to lay their hands on the sick. And that isn't greater than Jesus. He did those things. He pulled coins out of the sky. He put them in fish's mouths. He fed thousands with fish and loaves. You're not doing greater than him with miracles.
So good.
Nobody ever did greater than Jesus with miracles. No human being. And so when he says that, for everybody to go to miracles is like, you're not going to do greater than him. You might do really good. You might have the best man's ever had. But it ain't better than Jesus. He healed them all. And in many gatherings, it says he healed them all. Wow. And I haven't seen that here on earth. But when it comes to preaching the gospel, we have the ability to outdo him. We have the ability with him to go out and do greater things than he did and teach people how to have God be their father who does good things for his children. And so I think that's the definition of greater things than you see me do will you do. Because just about everything else, he outdid us. He outran us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is such an incredible truth, and it's really profound. I mean, like, I'm sitting here going, because there is a little bit in Christianity where you feel like you just failed. We just had two people that we loved passed away because we felt like we couldn't do the greater things. We didn't, they didn't raise from the dead. We didn't heal them, and that kind of just puts it on perspective as to what the greater things are.
But they both went to heaven.
Yeah, they both went to heaven, and that is a healing. Yeah. But in a Christian church nowadays, it feels like a failure.
That's a greater thing.
It's a greater thing that they went to heaven.
Much better healing than cancer.
That's right. But we kind of sometimes hit ourselves because we didn't have the faith to raise them or to believe for healing.
Because we've been deceived by all the things we've been told, and we're kind of off kilter. We're not thinking right.
It's really good.
We feel like such losers.
We're aiming at the wrong mark.
Yeah. And it's because we're confused. And it's like,
that was so good.
Wait a minute, you're mourning that he went to heaven?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I'm mourning that his 4 children don't have a dad.
Yeah.
Don't you think I can take care of that? And he can.
It's God the Father.
It depends on what they're told.
Yeah, it's really good.
We're going to try to tell them correctly. We're going to try to be there as parents, and we're going to try to teach them about God their Father.
That's right. But that was just remarkable. That was good. That was worth it.
So at some point were you given a vision for this, like the things that are happening right here around you 20-something years ago? Was it like a vague thing, like, oh, it's going to be really great if you keep going this direction? Or was it like, we're going to have this, we're going to, these are the works that we're going to do if we just keep going?
I really try not to ever do that because every human being that comes here, there's no way Vicki and I could run a food bank and a school of ministry and recovery and all of the myriad of ministries we have. You have to, and we started out with a very clear picture of we have to have people who come to take up the call, take up the task, and go out and follow the vision God's given them. So when we say that our church is like a wagon wheel, it's got the strong ring, it's got the hub, and it's got the spokes. And so the spokes have to come from other places like where you came from. And we say, we want to do someday to preach to the world over audio, over, broadcast.
Podcast.
And podcast, broadcast, all the
YouTube.
things.
Online.
Yeah, YouTube. We want to do this and do it well. Well, we can't do that. So it's a vague, we want to do this. So you come along. You say, I want to do this. We say, we want to support that. Let us put all of the stuff together. Let us join you. And here's the deal. You do whatever God gives you to do as long as it's within the boundaries of Father's house.
That ring.
Doctrine.
Right?
And the ring is the Word of God. Don't violate the Word of God. It's iron. It cannot be penetrated. But in the vernacular of you being a spoke, you have to stay within the boundaries of Father's house life. You have to use people that aren't professionals. You have to you have to give your life into it. You can't go outside of you preach different doctrines than we believe. And so you have to stay within the banks of that river. And in that river, you can move all over your dreams. And it has to be Max's fulfillment. And whatever Max does successfully, then we did successfully. So it was a vague vision, and I can't be specific because it might not have matched your deal, your idea.
And then you might just discard, oh no, we're not doing a podcast because we're here to do ABC.
And you might just discourage someone so much, the person that we wanted won't do it. And so we want people to, once they show us they're with us, and I'm on board, and they show us their character, we want them to go and blossom.
Yeah.
And fulfill God's dream and vision in their life. So then the next person comes along, and we say we want to do recovery, but we've never done recovery. So then someone moves in who does recovery this way. And you do it for a while, they burn out, but you are stuck with a recovery program. And you wait for somebody who wants to do a recovery program. You kind of limp
God
along.
is burdened with this desire.
Someone that comes in and says, can I take this on? This is what I want to do. Well, it's not just Joe Blow off the street. It's somebody that has been a son or a daughter in your ministry to you, that shared a vision with you, that they've shown they're in, they've shown they're invested, they're committed, and they come along and you say, okay, here's the deal. There's the banks of the river. I want you to do this. This is what we're doing. I don't want you to change it too fast, but in the end, I want it to look like whatever vision you have.
Yeah.
And it's got to fit within what vision we have and what our parameters and the banks of our stream is. And so each ministry we do that, and you have to, so your original vision, I want to do a Lord's Gym. I guarantee you, my original vision of a Lord's Gym did not look like that. That's Derek's vision of a Lord's Gym, but where did he get Lord's Gym as a vision? From me. I shared it with him, said it has to be a place where people get healthy, work out, and Jesus is preached, and ministry is supported. I mean, he had a much classier idea than I did. I had some dark, dank
Holiday
Gold's
Inn.
Gym kind of,
Holiday Inn little
muscle.
room.
I had the,
Powerlifting
power lifters and all the
Grunting.
crazy grunting. And I mean, I had all of that. He has both.
Yeah.
And anyway, what he built was just amazing and beyond your imagination amazing. So if I had stuck with my vision and forced him to do my vision, we wouldn't have what we have in any ministry we have.
Exactly.
So School of Transformation, Jordy was he looked at me like a deer caught in the headlights. You're going to do a school. Are you going to help me? Well, I'm telling you what I want, and then you've got to make it happen.
Yeah. But
you're going to come up. God's going to envision you, and you're going to flow in it, and you're going to make it what you want. Well, my parameters were we need, what's missing is who's God. And then when you know who God is, who does that make you? Take that theme and run with it.
Yeah, that's a pretty wide stream. Right?
Yeah. And Jordy, just don't go outside my parameters. Don't go outside the vision of our message. And man, this has, and that all by itself turned this church into what it is today.
That's
just
right.
And we have people from all around the world that have come here and said their life is the best it's ever been because of.
And we floundered. We tried 3 times to get going in this school, and we just floundered because when you pick a leader, you can't know until they're in the fight, until they see the cost, until they are exhausted. And they fail over and over at their original tries and and then they just get right up and swing again. They fell off that horse, they got right back on. They fell off that horse, they got right back on. Or they swung and missed, and they swung and missed. And finally they connected with one and sent it sailing, And so you got to find people who are going to fight through their failures and fight through the things that didn't work to learn how it does work. And I'm telling you, we had a lot of failures at first, and Jordy kept going until he built this amazing school of transformation.
Goes on.
And then the next person comes along. Jordy passed away. So who's going to take it over? We going to tell him, you got to do it like Jordy? Well, that would be a dumb idea, but we did pick a graduate of Jordy's school who had visions. And I got to tell you, it's completely different than when it was then. But that's the nature of Father's House leadership. Go and fulfill what God's given you to do. Do it the way God showed you to do it, but fit within these parameters. And so that's
really cool.
Also how you do greater than what Jesus did. We have way more resources. If we're not doing greater than Jesus, then we are just flat out falling on our face, because he didn't have these resources to preach the gospel and cause people to become children of God, make him their father. We can't do better than him with all our resources. That's how so your question was about vision. We have very vague visions. I have so many more, and I know the direction of it, and when he sends the person, they're going to come to me, or I'm going to share it one day, and someone's going to say, you were talking about me. That's my mission. Well, let's go. Let's talk about how we can build this.
Yeah.
And people are coming to me right now. Counseling centers I've got on the table. I've got trafficking centers, and we even have one that's a there's a medical, one person with a medical idea, just try to clinic idea with these nurses. People who are nurses, they want to use their nursing for some kind of medical thing. We have another one with tattoo removal, and they're all on the table to be picked up. And people searching God and letting God search them to prepare them. And they're continuing to work to become a person that can handle this kind of ministry. And heck, the Father's House said, pick it up.
Yeah.
Yesterday, someone cried because they said, I never dreamed the Father's House would do this with us. I said, you've not been listening to me. We'll do. That's the whole goal here, is to raise you up as a minister and send you out to your ministry and be the hub that you as a spoke in our wheel are connected to a hub, which is the church leadership, the church foundation, the local church, basically. And we want to connect you and place you in our wheel and be one of the spokes in our wheel. And we want that wheel to just keep on turning and rolling on down the road, man.
So you want to create spokespeople? Right? I'm a good spokesperson.
Yeah, that was pretty corny there. Huh?
Can I answer that question?
Vicky laughed, and I just went,
oh my gosh,
I got it.
People are going to run into.
I didn't want to get it.
They're going to run into cars because that was so funny.
Yeah.
Practically for me and people who are listening, it's like, we are 22 years down the road, and had the Lord shown us this 22 years ago, we probably would have been, our hair would have been on fire. We would have ran screaming and kicking, because to go through all the heartache and the disappointment and the things that God has shown us for 22 years. It's like, I think where you start is just saying yes and identifying places of need and where you can do the greater things in your community. Like Steve said, if you're a good baker, just go bake at a festival, give it away. So just start with small. We started sweeping glass in the
streets,
ghetto of our town, which was where we started our church, where God wanted it there. It wasn't lofty. It wasn't big. It wasn't grandiose. People come here and they look at us and go, their head, it just looks like it's going to explode, because it takes a long time to see everything that God has birthed in us and in you and in Luke, but back at the beginning, it was just baby steps. If you want to get across the country, you got to start walking. And we just started walking and saying yes to everything that the Lord did. And like he said, people would come, and we had multitude of failures, multitude of rejection, multitude of things happening. And it still happens. I mean, but we're willing to get back on the horse, like you said, and continue to ride. Yeah. So practically, the works would be just do something. You know?
Well, that's what I really didn't want in this episode is I didn't want people to hear, well, good for you guys. You guys do a whole lot. Maybe somebody in a who just feels like, okay, well, this is beyond me.
No, it's
because
not.
It didn't start that way.
It starts so organic and so little, and it just don't. He says don't regret or don't hate small beginnings, right?
Yeah, don't despise the day of small beginnings.
Yeah, and so when I look back, sometimes all the time I go to the 91 Acres and look at the kids summer camp we had this summer, and I just like, Jesus, you are so good. It's not, and I just see the greatness of God, because I just said yes.
Mm-hmm.
We just said yes together, and then people came and said yes, and then more people came and said yes. And he just sends these Fifth Avenue kind of people that could be hired anywhere and make $150,000, you know, but they came to give their life away, and he just takes, it's like the loaves and the fishes, give them what you have, and he will multiply, and he will feed the 5,000 with it. You will see those greater works. You will see things like that, and that's what we've seen at the Father's house. We just give him our little loaves and fishes and say, let's go, Jesus, and he says, okay. And it's shocking. I mean, it is shocking. And then 22 years later, you have people on a bike trail telling you about your church.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing is everything, it's like every step is reinvested to more, right?
Better,
like,
bigger.
I mean, you if you wanted to go and start any one of these things, like say a food bank that feeds all the towns in the county, it would take a long time to start that. But starting a food bank that feeds the 100 people in the 3 blocks around you, that maybe you could get there, or just start with the person next door.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when you got a few people volunteering and a few people coming around and say, hey, I want to help you with this, with picking up food, or because that's what you guys start with, volunteers picking up food from another church. Right?
So we started with us picking it up from Gleaners in Sacramento, but then another church jumped in with volunteers and said, well, let's take over that. And that's the Doug French connection to our church.
That's why it's called the French Family
Food Banks, because Doug jumped in to do this with us. And he supported in every way. But he went to a different church, and he got his men's group in. But how we started the church, when we started this vision, all we did was a 21-day morning prayer walk up and down the streets, and we found out very quick they could care less about us. How would we ever have a voice with them?
That's right.
God sent us to a neighborhood where they shun us. And so what are you middle-class people walking up and down the street for? The very few that asked, we said praying for the neighborhood, praying for every house and the people in it. But they didn't come back out and say, would you pray for my uncle? Would you pray for our this or that? They went, oh, okay. They went back inside, right? So we, near the end of that prayer walk, started to say, Lord, what can we do? Well, he showed us a property, which is the dining hall, now the school. It was that house with a lot next to it, and I bought it that afternoon. And then when we closed escrow, I started that building, which was a huge house with a big living room that we would meet in for church. But on that prayer walk, we identified that we have no voice with these people. Why would they ever listen to us? So what can we do? We noticed an inordinate amount of glass in the streets and kids running around barefoot, so we started sweeping glass out of the streets. I owned a dump truck. It was just a dump bed Ford truck. It wasn't a dump truck like you see with big.
It wasn't a Tonka truck.
It wasn't 10-wheelers. It was what I used for garbage on all my job sites to go to the dump, all my debris to go to the recycle dump. And so it was massive, big old dump bed Ford, and it was one of the best things I ever bought. So we went down in Southside, going up the streets, just picking the garbage up in the street, throw it in the truck. We did a few loads here and there, and it just began to be, hey, this is what we can do for these people. This is how we can get credibility. So we built the house church, and we cleaned garbage, and we continued that garbage cleaning for a good couple of years until we had cleaned 300,000 pounds of garbage. We learned not to do it in daylight, so we did it at dark 30 in the morning when they're all asleep, and we went up their alleys and cleaned it, because they would then start throwing things over the fence if they heard you.
Here, take more, more.
So we cleaned the alleys and cleaned the streets, and we kept track of the weight of the weight of each
you
load.
actually have to pay to dump things.
Correct.
Yeah,
right?
And we didn't, because the dump, we paid it first, but then the dump said, we'll take this as long as you make this agreement, and we'll take 100,000 pounds. Well, at 100,000, we said we're at 100,000. They said, we'll keep going. Well, at 300, they said, okay, enough's enough.
Plus recology.
So recology.
Yeah, bless
and
them,
so
Lord.
300,000 pounds they took, as long as we promised to only take it from the streets and alleyways. And that's a lot for a little neighborhood, that's a lot of garbage. So we decided we want to do what will attract their attention. Now, abandoned cars were a problem, so we started cutting them up. because nobody would take them.
Yeah.
Then a state law came into effect, and then they became valuable. They had reclaimed money. And so then we got people from outside to come in and pick up 400 cars out of the streets and alleyways. Abandoned cars on blocks.
How many blocks in Sussex?
It's maybe 8 blocks wide by maybe about 8 blocks. It's about 8 by 8.
It's pretty,
the area.
pretty square.
Yeah. And so that's the kind of thing that gets their attention, right? So people did start coming to the church. And then what else can we do? While we're doing this, what else can we do? And it's a free yard sales. So we started collecting everything we could get, put them in piles, and had free yard sales. Well, some of the girls decided to have little kids festivals while the parents are going through the free yard sales. And we just kept buying more houses and fixing them until around that first place, we had quite a campus with quite a group of houses
Back
backed
then
up.
they were like 15 to 18,000, weren't they?
Yeah, by the time first one I bought was 15,
Yeah.
but after that, all around there, I paid more because I had already. That's the problem. You start cleaning,
They
and
knew.
you cost yourself money.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I kept buying these houses, 15,000. I started with 5,000. The first ones,
Those ones from the
yeah,
county.
the first rehab house was 5,000.
Wow.
I tore it down and built a brand new house there, which was quite a bit more than 5. But so that's where you live is part of the campus. All those houses backed up to the dining hall. School
Church.
used to be a church,
Yeah.
and it's just a house, really. And so we said, what can we do? So started with that. The next thing, a free camp out for kids. And we just kind of went that way.
Yeah.
We did free yard sales then about a couple times a year for a while. We did sweeping glass. We did cleaning the streets. We did helping people, going in their yards, helping them with their overgrown, foliage. And we just tried to find widows and help them. And so eventually we really did get the attention of the people. Now we can preach the gospel to them. And you think that's it's all,
Roses
the Pied Piper with roses and lilies and tiptoe through the tulips, but it's not. Upwood, you've created focus where cops will come when they're called now. It's now becoming a valuable neighborhood. So the bad people, the bad eggs, they become your enemy. You're putting focus on they've never had anyone looking at them. They got away with everything. Now they're not getting away with so much. And why is it? It's that church over there. And so there's both sides to that coin.
Yeah.
So you just try to keep serving so you can keep preaching the gospel so you can eventually teach them to love Jesus with all their heart. And so that's really what a vision looks like. This whole thing that we have now grew out of, let's just sweep glass and let's take, I own that dump truck. Why don't we just go slowly down the street and take garbage and throw it in there and then pay to dump it? Well, then the dump jumps in, and then people start joining us. Business owners joined us. A lot of that garbage was picked up by non-members of our church. Business owners would say, "When you doing it? I want to help." Dark 30 Saturday, they'd come out in the morning and help us go. We're going to go this alley and that alley,
So good.
and they would just before the sun rose, they would do 2 alleys. It's just amazing. It's amazing to see how it just grows grassroots.
Yeah.
And that's really more, the development of a foundation that you could do a Lord's Gym. It took 14 years of vision for the Lord's Gym until Derek came along, and a school of ministry, and it took quite a few years before Jordy came along, maybe 8 years before Jordy came along. And so you have all these visions that God's shown you that he wants to change the world. And then the funniest one was the first thing he ever said to me is, you're going to speak to the world from Moorville. I'm still going, when am I going to speak to the world? Now I got English people, French people, Norwegian people, Dutch people.
Hungarian,
I got
Canadian,
what?
Hungarian,
Canadian. I got people, and it's like I'm still waiting.
Swiss.
When do I get to speak to the world?
Yeah.
We have listeners on the podcast that are from around the world. We have people in the School of Transformation on Zoom. When do we get to speak to the world? Well, I think you're already doing it. We are. The world can reach us. They can hear us.
Yeah.
Thank you, world.
So sometimes he's telling you what you're going to do, and you're still waiting for it, but you're already doing it, and you just kind of missed it. You forgot. I am speaking to the world from Moorville.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Okay, that's how vision grows here, and I think it would work for you too.
So try it.
Yeah.
Vicky, was there a moment where it's like, oh, we could almost stop here and just kind of plateau? Did you ever remember that moment of like, oh, this is enough, and then you decided, no, we're just going to keep going?
No, the only plateau was when our church broke. from 95 to 15, and we've talked about that before, and that was tough because it was like, we could take our ball and go home and we'd be fine because we don't
We
live
have
in
a
this
home.
area, and we live 7 miles away. The Lord, we built the house before the Father's house. We built our house on a hill, and it was like, you know what, I don't need this. My kids don't need this, and I was petitioning to stop. I think it was right around 2001, and it was like, we don't really need this mess. We'll be fine, and obviously, clearer minds prevailed. My husband and my daughters and my son are like, let's keep going. But it's like, I don't want to. But I don't think there's been a time where I said there's enough with what we're doing. I love the momentum. It keeps me so excited. I'm just excited in what Jesus is doing in every one of us here. And if you came to a Friday morning a team meeting to see, what goes on in a week here, it's actually probably takes some churches a year to do what we do in a week, and all the different the cogs in the wheel or the spokes. I just came in and Joey Carr and his team had made the beautiful courtyard in the apartments I hadn't seen. You miss a day here. When we went away to Yellowstone, you come back and there's things different. It's such an organic place. It's just exciting just to see everything that God is doing through people.
That process of see a need, respond to the need, find another need, keep filling it.
Yeah.
It's not just you telling people, hey, I see this need, now you go do it.
No.
It's them seeing the need themselves.
Right.
Like, I saw the need for the podcast because I like podcasts.
Yeah, it's what you love.
And so I saw, it took me a while, took me some, circling through lots of different guests, and I was like, we need to get Vicky in here with
There you
Steve.
go. You needed Vicky.
We needed to add some Vicky.
I always had a Vicky.
You didn't need one.
I didn't need another one.
You didn't want me to hog the time.
One was enough,
And
but
so,
it was enough.
and now we're speaking to the world. So
Hello, world.
Hey,
hello,
there you
world.
go.
Good
Yeah,
morning,
it's pretty
world.
cool. It's
And we've never said it was too much. We've never said it's too
No.
expensive. It's too much money. I mean, it costs us fortunes, what other people would call fortunes. But we have never failed to give that. We've never even questioned it. It was never ours anyway. And
that's last week's.
Yeah, right.
And
so-
and the thing is, just keep putting your hand to the plow. And just keep pushing. Just don't let go and turn away. Just keep going. If you're right at the place of burnout and you don't think anything's working, keep going. Get healing, because that's the thing, is that we didn't ever stop pushing and saying yes and doing the next thing. And the excellence, when you come to the Father's house, what was stunning is the excellence of everything that you guys do, we do together. You walk, people, I love to see people when we give them tours, because we give tours. If you want to come, we'll give you a tour. They walk into the Lord's gym, because you think it's going to be, it's a church gym, so you think it's going to be a Holiday Inn kind of gym. It's going to have 3 treadmills and weights. And you see the people's faces. And they're people from mega churches, and they're like, they're shocked, because what Derek and team have done, Steve have done, is made it excellent. You walk into the Restored Boutique, and you think it's going to be like, every other thrift store. And you're stunned at the quality and the beauty of the talent that goes into the Restored Boutique. You walk into Youre yogurt, and you think, I'm going to get one flavor, vanilla and chocolate. And you see the excellence of what Katie Rodriguez has done at Youre yogurt. It just goes on and on. You walk into the church, and so we have not done that. We have just given the opportunity to let them do that. And the greatness of the team of the Father's house, and even the people that are not on the team, our church members, are catching that. They're giving their life away, and they haven't stopped and to come to be part of the school. Maybe they've come to the School of Transformation Light, or maybe they have come to school, but they're getting it. They're we probably, I'd say 75% of our church probably gives their life away of some sort. Volunteers
jumps in on
Yeah.
stuff.
it catches.
It catches. It's a light.
That vision, that paradigm, you're shifting, right? You're
Right.
shifting that. Well, I can't really make a difference myself. There's a need, I can do that. Oh, I've got this thing that'll help with this need.
Correct.
Oh, I'll help with that, right?
And it's so cool, because you go to
really refreshing.
There's churches that we know that are way bigger, and they can't get volunteers to save their life. They're crying out for volunteers, so they have to hire it out. And everybody here is starting to catch the vision, and it's just growing. It's phenomenal. I'm just so proud of the Father's house. And the other churches now we're starting to have an impact in other churches, which is cool. We want you to go to the church God's called you to do, but you can join us anytime. We can join you. And that's what's kind of cool in the 22nd year is that we're really, people in the city are starting to catch it.
And wherever you're listening to this podcast, if you're across the world and it just doesn't make sense to be in Orville or, there are people around you doing greater things for Jesus.
Yeah.
Join them, catch their vision, serve their vision.
Absolutely.
And find those needs out there. And we'll always take more help, right?
If you want to come,
we'll always take more people to talk to, preach to, help lead up in leadership, and we could use more visions of, whatever else we. And also
just if you wanted to come out and see it, because it is kind of a spectacle. It's pretty. I think it's exceptional. If you wanted to come out, there's a short-term mission called Project 61 where you come for a week, and you live on the campus, which is quite extensive. And you just be part of our team for a week, and you're at the Lord's Gym and the boutique, and you just part of our team meetings, and you get to see a little bit whatever the Lord wants you to take back to your town, if He wants you to take anything at all.
Right.
Well, that's great. I think we could keep going.
Oh, I could keep going.
Yeah,
Steve definitely.
We know
could.
Steve could keep going.
Steve could ride.
And I could, but we're pushing up. We're on radio now, so we can't just talk as long as we want. We have to leave room for some of our sponsors and stuff. So because we got sponsors now.
We got sponsors.
It's not Pepsi, but it's Life
not,
Recovery
man?
It's
Ministry.
Shasta.
Why isn't it
School of
Pepsi, man?
Transformation. I got to work harder.
You
That's
gotta
the
work
need
harder.
I got to fill.
Come on, Starbucks.
That's
You
the
should have
vision.
Starbucks.
Get her
that's
done,
for sure.
man.
Get
Yep.
her done.
Get
All
us
right.
Pepsi.
Have a great day.
All right. I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for that. Have a great week.
God bless you guys.
See you guys.